Hi, welcome to Yo Math Study. I'm Johan. Welcome to the channel. I have to make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button, make sure that you follow up with everything that's going on here. In the last video, I talked to you guys about my story, how I broke through on being a lot better at math and all of that, and how I got through my journey through it. And it was not easy. It took a lot of work. But what I found is since then, so many more people that say that they're bad at math, and I know that they're not. I know that they're better at it, and I've seen them unlock their potential, and they didn't believe it at first, but then suddenly they find themselves studying it a lot more and a lot less afraid of it. And so there's really a lot of common reasons that I tell people that they say that they're bad at math, but they really aren't. And so one of the most common reasons why you may feel like you're bad at math is because, quite simply, you probably just need to change your study habits. When I tell people about their study habits, I say, first thing that you got to understand, math is a set of processes, okay? And there's a lot of different processes that you're going to have to do through algebra, even calculus, and even just simple math. If it's financial math, whatever math you're doing, you're gonna have to go through a set of steps, and you want those set of steps to be clear to you and to the other person that you might be presenting the information to. So in order for you to be comfortable with those steps, you gotta practice. Like I said, math is an instrument, and like any other instrument, you have to practice it. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to practice, or maybe even the word practice turns them off from doing it. You can call it rehearsal. You can call it whatever you want. But at the end of the day, you've got to familiarize yourself. You've got to train your mind and do that muscle memory to get through those set of steps comfortably. Now, after you do those set of steps a fair amount of times, you start memorizing it inadvertently, or you just at the very least become more comfortable with it. So in order to practice it, if you learn a new math concept, you gotta at least practice it, I'd say at least 10, 15 minutes a day. Meaning you sit down for at least, 5 minutes in 3 hours, 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, whatever, but you give yourself time to practice the concept. Most of the time, people don't have trouble understanding the concept. They make mistakes in between it. But when they make those mistakes, it's because they're not really familiar with the work. So you got to give yourself 10, 15 minutes of practice. The next thing you need to do with your study habits, take good notes. I'm finding more and more people really aren't taking notes, or at least younger folks. They might take pictures of the board. They feel like because the video is always there, then they can always refer to it, and that's fine. But actually physically writing down your notes and writing down at least certain parts that you might memorize this part, but you may want to say it in your own words so that it sticks better, because you know your mind the best. Most teachers are not going to know how to communicate to you in the way that you fully need to understand certain nuances of why you're doing a process or why you're doing certain things. So you got to write down good notes. It sticks in your memory better that way. So when you have the practice and writing down notes, you're training your long-term memory better than your short-term memory. The next thing you got to do, search the internet. I know that the internet may have a lot of false information. There's a lot to sift through. I'm very well aware that you could probably find a calculator somewhere on the internet that will do the problem for you and show you the steps. But if you really want to learn something, searching YouTube, searching through the internet, and finding something that explains something the way you need it to, you've got to sacrifice the time to do a little bit of research. Most people may not like that either, but it is what it is. You got to be willing to search the internet, do extra problems, and give yourself that extra time to sacrifice that time. The other thing you got to do is really have an honest conversation to yourself on if there's any other habits that you may need to change. Is it better for you to work outside in the open? Is it better for you to work with music on? Is it better for you to work in isolation? Do you work better when other people are working? experiment with different kinds of habits so that you can find what is the best setting for you to work in. A lot of times people try to just, especially when they think about math, they want to hyper focus. They want to just be alone, walled off and all that. But as soon as you do that and it's just you and the work, that avoidance can start creeping in. So then you might look at your phone, you might look on the internet, you get confused by something and then you just suddenly stop. You get up and walk away from it. But maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you have to find a study partner. So experiment with your study habits and see if you don't find a better way of doing that. The next thing to do, find a tutor, get help. We've been under a lot of false assumption that that getting help means that you're not good at something. But no, getting help is completely normal. So let me make sure that you understand, getting help is normal. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help in any arena. And some people may not want to do that because then they may have to confront more of the things that they may not be so good at, or they may find out that they have a learning disability or anything like that. But a lot of times coming to discover that when you do find out what your blind spot is, a lot of times there's very easy solutions for that, that once you address it, you don't have to worry about it anymore. So don't be afraid to get help. Nobody has to go through all of this stuff alone. Math is much more compassionate than that, okay? And as I start talking about compassion and math, one of the other reasons why people struggle with math or think that they're bad at math is because they're actually not very compassionate with themselves. A high sense of perfectionism, the idea that you have to get everything right, ends up adding more stress and more anxiety on you. Asking for help does not mean that it is now running up against your sense of perfection. If anything, if you want to be better, you're going to probably need help along the way. A lot of times we think that math is just one of these things that people know and that they don't have to work to get better. And it's just not true. There's a lot of people who are actually secretly studying and working and working and working, and they may pass it off as though, oh, it's very simple. But no, anything that you want to get good at, it's going to take some work. And it may not take as much work for certain people, but believe me, you'll find the progress comes as you do these things that I mentioned. And one of the biggest things you really got to be sure to do is forgive yourself. Make sure that you understand that you're not perfect, but as you try to strive for perfection, it will require a lot more sacrifice of your time. So just to kind of go over that, remember, study habits. 15, 20 minutes a day, do a little bit of extra practice. Make sure that you are doing your best not to procrastinate. If you take too long, you're going to forget by the time the information does come, okay? Be sure to change your own habits. Look at yourself, be honest with yourself as to what you can and can't do, and be sure to forgive yourself. You may make mistakes along the way, but as you do it, you're going to get better and better. Now, understand, this is actually the lowest level reason why you may be bad at math. All the other reasons you're going to come to see are not necessarily your fault. There are a lot of societal reasons, a lot of cultural reasons, and a lot of things that we have done as a society, especially with our education, that has caused people to be bad at math. So stick around for that, because I definitely think these next set of things are going to be things that you identify with and probably didn't necessarily think contributed to your math anxiety. So stick with it.